The next character we're going to look at is the nurse. The nurse is both a very affectionate character and a little bit vulgar, and she does also join in some wordplay with Mercutio and Romeo when she goes to find them to talk about the marriage to Juliet. She's a bit of a comic character, adds a little bit of light relief to the play. When we think of a nurse, we think of somebody who's looking after a person who's sick, but in this case it means that the nurse is actually Juliet's nanny, who's looked after her since she was born. She would have breastfed her too, something we find a little bit of an alien concept, but actually it would have been a very common thing in those days, because the families like the Capulets were very high up in society. The parents would give their children to a nanny to bring up, and the children would have very limited contact with their parents, hence that slightly distant relationship that they have here. Whereas Juliet is so close to the nurse, they share a room, and they're incredibly close throughout the play until the end, when Juliet feels that actually the nurse has let her down badly, and at that point they start to become more distant. The overriding feeling that you get from the nurse is her affection and her love for Juliet. It shines throughout everything she does, everything she says about her. She's a comic character who provides some light relief in the tragic play, and she provides somebody for Juliet to tell her secrets to, somebody who Juliet to confide in and to help her. And without the nurse, she probably would never have got to the stage where she was able to marry Romeo, because she would not have had anybody there to help her to organise the wedding. She also is the person who seems most genuinely upset when Juliet appears to be dead after taking the potion that the friar gave her. I think I got a bit carried away on the last slide, and I told you everything that's on this slide as well, so you can have a rest from my voice for a second. One of the things I think I find odd about the nurse is that she's not a responsible role model. She kind of encourages Juliet to do the wrong thing initially by marrying Romeo and meeting him in secret, despite the fact that Capulet is her boss. I mean, it's one of the things that really I would be worried about if I were her, but she just does it because she obviously likes Juliet. She encourages her to have this proper romantic sexual love with Romeo, and that is not the most responsible attitude for her to take. Encouraged Juliet to pursue this relationship with Romeo as soon as the other option of Paris comes up, and she realises that Juliet's got no choice in the matter. She very quickly changes her mind, and when Juliet goes to her for some counselling and advice, the nurse advises her to marry County Paris and to forget about Romeo, and instantly changes her mind, whether it's because she's thought twice about her previous advice and realised it was irresponsible, or whether she's suddenly aware that in fact her boss is Lord Capulet and she could end up in a lot of trouble. I don't know, but it does show a lack of awareness of Juliet's true feelings, and it's at that point that she loses Juliet's trust. The main theme that the nurse links to is the theme of love. She shows that parental love, and the relationship between her and Juliet is very close throughout the play until, as I said, towards the end when Juliet loses her trust. She does make sexual jokes and puns, so she has a real contrast to Juliet's kind of romantic notion about love. Although Juliet herself does want a sexual relationship with Romeo, she also is quite naive in her attitude because she has no idea what love is all about at that point. The next character we're going to look at on this PowerPoint is the Friar. He is a real mixture of somebody who's wise and respected, but on the other hand, is sometimes reckless and also cowardly. As a trusted person in Romeo's life, he then becomes a trusted person in Juliet's life, and one of his functions throughout the play is to give advice to both of them. They both look up to him and they both respect him, but actually when we look back on the play and think of some of the advice that he does give, it's a little bit like the nurse. It's a little bit irresponsible and a little bit unwise. As well as giving advice to Romeo and Juliet, he always seems very helpful and sensible. He's always willing to listen to everybody and try to find a solution to every problem. And he seems like a very calm and reasonable, thoughtful man. It is up to you to make up your mind about the Friar. Is he a wise and sensible person? Or because he does some of these ridiculous, risky, controversial things, is he somebody that actually is totally irresponsible? You have to kind of make a decision in what you think about him. As long as you use quotes to support your idea, as usual, there is no wrong or right answer to this. It's just that he has two sides to his character like most people do. And he links beautifully to the nurse, because equally he's a father figure as she is a mother figure, and they both should have the best interests of their young people at heart, but some of their decisions are questionable and risky. And lastly, looking at how the Friar links to the themes, obviously the theme of love, even more obviously the theme of religion, but also I think because of the feud, because as I said here and earlier on, it is his desire to stop the feud that leads to him deciding to marry Romeo and Juliet, and that is the thing that changes the whole action of the play and is a catalyst for the events that unfold. And at that point we've finished looking at the nurse and the friar for now. I hope the PowerPoint has been helpful to you. I would always suggest that you write notes about it. Don't copy everything word for word, as I've said to you before, but just make some key notes, get some key quotes, and make your decision about what kind of characters you think they are, ready for when you need to perhaps write about them later on. Thank you for listening.